Right, the government integrated financial management information systems will now be used in preparing the country's budgets.
Ministries, departments and agencies are already being put through the process. Well, process of adaptation, Lara Afolanya reports.
The Government Integrated Financial Management Information System, GIFMIS, is an information technology-driven platform for budget management and accounting. It is for improved administration of public finances, so Nigeria's budgets could be executable. Nigeria's public institutions have used GIFMIS in budget execution for 5 years now. The technology is now being adopted for the preparation of the 2018 and subsequent annual budgets. But the budgetary authorities are not relying on GIFMIS alone. They are involving the law in making budget preparation and passage faster.
We're looking and working with the National Assembly towards enacting an organic budget law. That organic budget law will, if and when enacted, will include a budget calendar.
The MDAs utilized a zero-based budgeting website application in putting together their budgets for 2017. The Budget Office says this helped avoid problems associated with manual budgeting. GIFMIS will now build on this success for more impactful expenditure plans.
The decision to adopt the ZBB, the zero-based budget, in 2015, basically created new dynamics which had to be, addressed before implementing the budget preparation module on GIFMIS, I believe.
Okay, that's the report there. Now let's get into our next discussion before we round off. Now, power generation in Nigeria dates back to 1886 when 2 generating sets were installed to serve the then colony of Lagos.
By an act of Parliament in 1951, the Electricity Corporation of Nigeria was established, and in 1962, the Niger Dams Authority was also established for the development of hydroelectric power.
Now, a merger of the ECN and NDA in 1972 resulted in the formation of the National Electric Power Authority, NEPA, which was saddled with the responsibility of generating, transmitting and distributing electricity for the whole country. Now, in 2005, as a result of the power sector reform process, NEPA was unbundled and renamed Power Holding Company of Nigeria.
The power generation subsector presently has a total installed capacity of 10,396 megawatts and an available capacity of 6,056 megawatts. Thermal-based power generation has an installed capacity of 8,457 megawatts, while hydropower has 1,938 megawatts of total installed capacity. Now, this comprises of the privatized Gencos, independent power producers, and the generating stations under the National Integrated Power Project.
Now, but in April 2017, the Association of Power Generation Companies said it now has the capacity to generate 12,000 megawatts of power and an available capacity of 8,000 megawatts, but that the transmission company that will transport the power to the distribution companies has a maximum capacity of 5,500 megawatts.
According to the APGC, that's the system stress test was conducted on the distribution line, and it showed that the distribution companies, those are the DISCOs, can only take a maximum of 4,600 megawatts. And with us in the studio is the former chairman and chief executive officer of the Nigeria Electric Regulatory Commission. Thank you for joining us at this time. He's joining us from our Abuja studio. Good morning to you. Now, it seems the problem with Nigeria power sector is not about generating power, but evacuating it and letting it get to the final user.
Well, yes, partly so. We already know that we have a very weak transmission line, not just now, but has historically had a very bad transmission in 2 ways. First, our transmission lines are not fully covered our territory. Some places are weak, and then, of course, it needs so much investment to upgrade. So And those investments ideally should come from consumers of electricity through the whole value chain from distribution. So essentially, you have a transmission network that's not even adequate to some of the new power plants do may not have the capacity to be evacuated. But even those that are connected to the grid, their lines are often weak, and often there are outages, there are collapses here and there. So transmission problem is a major problem, and I think government knows about that and has started a process of perhaps also getting financing to focus on some areas that need to be upgraded and rehabilitated quickly. So we're always going to have a transmission failure and incapacity to deal with much megawatt. But essentially, that big picture may not explain some of the small problems, pocket of problems with low generation, and of course some failures of evacuation in some places. So, but essentially, it's a true state that we have a transmission problem that inhibits both distribution and constrain the capacity to generate, even to make long-term investment in upgrade of generation.
Now, if we have to focus on generation right now, we know that during the rainy season, the water levels are higher, and it is expected that generation level will heighten or will increase. But are we generating enough in the first place before we even talk about the constraints with the distribution or transmission?
Well, we're not generating enough, and we can't. I mean, even with the available, even if we have all our transmission capacity working at upgrade capacity, we will still have very insignificant improvement in generation. If you look at the demand load, which many years ago was put conservatively at 14,000 megawatts, that's what people who are connected to the load would require. We are nowhere close to that. So there are three problems. One is that our capacity to generate has to improve irrespective of our transmission capability, because really, even if transmission was available, we still will not hit 10,000, nowhere close to 7,000 megawatts at that. So that's very poor. But what we're saying is that even with perhaps 5,000 megawatts you could generate, if you had a good transmission network, you cannot, because they are constrained. So that does not explain the fact that we are acutely under capacity in terms of generation. We need to expand generation, and that's what the whole idea of the reform. The reform was that if we improve distribution, improve collection, then there'll be incentive, financial incentive for new IPPs to come in and build power plants. And by now, we're thinking about 16,000, 18,000, 20,000 megawatts. That was a projection when the reform started. But of course, we don't have good distribution, we don't have enough generation. So it's like a self-reinforcing crisis. It's a vicious circle. If you don't generate, Discos will not have enough power to sell. If Discos sell and they can't collect their money, or they can't sell because they have distribution failures, then they cannot supply funds for generation, and then there will be less incentive for Discos to even improve and expand capacity. We will need to recover lost capacity, and we've not recovered all those capacity. We need to improve, get new capacity. So essentially, it is a triple problem. You have low generation, you have bad distribution, and you have bad collection system. And each of these problems reinforce themselves, and so we are trapped as it were in a vicious circle.
Okay, let's quickly talk about, because of time now. There is a blame game going on. There are reports that distribution companies, Discos, are refusing to collect power from Gencos through this TCN. And Gencos are accusing TCN through NCC that they have been told to ramp down, that is, reduce their generation of power. And the TCN, of course, we hear that they even have obsolete infrastructure and gadgets to be able to distribute it. So the blame game continues, and of course there are accusations of blowing invoices out of proportion. So what should be the next action now for the government, especially to solve this problem? Because dams are going to be overflowed very soon, and there is need for more generation of power. But we are hearing that Discos don't even want to collect the power from Gencos.
Well, I don't know where things are right now, but before I left office, we had a framework, quite a special committee that developed some actionable plan on dealing with what we call avoidance or rejection of load, which is a very bad thing. But the economics is very simple. Distribution companies do not want to take loads which they cannot sell, because by taking those loads, they're already they're implicated in cost. They have to pay to the bulk trader, they have to pay to the market and settle the generator. So what they do is that they complain that those loads are dropped at points where they cannot maximize their value. So that's one. Two, of course, if they're not collecting their money, and they're not sure of effectively distributing the power, they would have incentive to say, don't give us more than we can distribute, because any load they take, they pay, and they're not getting revenue to pay. So it's a cost avoidance strategy. But then what can be done? Two things. We had a report, and what we did was to create a regulatory framework that penalizes failure to take load. So I think we should look at it. First and foremost, we should make sure that the discos are getting their loads at the right place they need it, and we deal with the structural problem. Then we now use economics. We penalize anybody who reject load, and then also we remove incentive for people to reject load. So I think it's a regulatory problem, because if they are rejecting load that they have allocated to them, then they are impairing the market. It's wrong. They are posting costs back to the generator, because the generator has planned his generation based on loads that will be accepted for him. And so if you're asking him to constrain because there's no gas, or you're asking him to constrain because the discos don't want load, then he's also having costs to pay. So the whole thing is to sit together and look at the report that was submitted and see where you can create financial incentive for discos not to reject load. But make sure first that you streamline the NCC and the system operators delivery process, so that load could be dropped as near as possible to where discos can optimize their value. But I think it calls for regulatory action, and I think NEC is up to that, yeah.
Okay, Sam Amadi, former Chairman, Chief Executive Officer of the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission. Thank you for talking to us on TVC Breakfast.